Hello everyone, my name is Derek Su, Executive Coding Officer for KITE, and welcome back to the free KITE Python course. Here on KITE, we're on a mission to spread knowledge of new technologies across the world. Today, let's go over an important Python object, lists. So lists in Python are actually pretty intuitive. All it is just a sequence of values, and each value is called an element or item. In this example, we have a list with 4 items, and it's just numbers going from 1 to 40. And in this list, all we have are 3 elements, which are all strings. And a list can also have strings, integers, and even lists inside of it. So lists are not limited to just one data type. So here we have a list that contains a string, a decimal, an integer, and also a list itself with 2 numbers in it. And when you create a list, you would assign it to a variable. So here's a variable that is assigned to a list that contains 3 strings. And here's one that contains 2 numbers, and you can also have a variable be equal to an empty list. And if you print these, it will simply return the lists back to you. So let's go through some examples by using the text editor. So imagine you're a business owner and you want to list out all your employees. Instead of having to go employee 1, John, employee 2, Bob, and so on, it would be much easier if you created one comprehensive list of all your employees, and that's where lists come in. You can just create one variable that contains John, Bob, and let's say Mary. And it can print this list by simply saying print employees. And it'll print this list. This also works with numbers. So I can say numbers. Let's say it just goes from 1 to 4. If I print this, it'll simply just print out 1, 2, 3, 4. This also works with lists that contain multiple data types. So if I have a list with just random items, let's say 2, hello, and even a list that says A and 1. I can also print this list, and it'll show all these various items. You can even have an empty list, so if things contains nothing, I can print it, and it'll simply just be nothing. So similar to strings, elements in a list are accessed by using an index. So this would be index 0, this would be index 1, and this would be index 2. However, unlike strings, lists are mutable, which means that once you access an index, you can actually change its value. So let's look at this in a text editor. So here I've created a list of letters, just A, B, C, and just like strings, if I wanted to access specifically the letter B, I would take letters at index 1, because indexes start at 0. So it goes 0, 1, 2. So if I print letters at index 1, I should get the letter B. But now let's look at how we can actually change the value of one of these elements. So if I take the same letter B, which is letters at index 1, I can actually set it equal to something else. So let's say I want it to be capital B. So now here I've actually changed the value of the element. So if I print the list, you'll see that it's actually now ABC, but B has been capitalized because I changed the value in this line. And similar to lists, well, not similar to lists, similar to strings, lists have the in operator. So I can take B in letters, and it'll return true or false based on whether it is in the list. And since B is in fact in this list of letters, it should return true. Once you've created a list, the most common way to traverse a list is by using a for loop. And what a for loop will do is that it will iterate through each item in the list until it reaches the last one. And note that even if you have a list within a list, the inner list will only be treated as a single element. So now let's take a closer look by using the text editor. So let's create a list of numbers. So let's say it's a list of 5, 10, 15, and 20. If I want to print each item individually, I could use a for loop. I'll say for, let's say, T in things. I'll print T. And what T represents is it represents each element for each iteration. So if I run it, it'll print each item separately, and it'll run 4 times because there are 4 elements in the list. And this also works even if the list contains multiple data types. So if I have a number, a string, and even a list inside of a list, which contains, let's say, 1, 2. If I run it now, it will still print each element. And note that this inner list is not separated, because in the eyes of the outer list, which I'm looping through here, this is just considered one element. And one more example, if we were to get rid of everything inside the list, nothing would actually be printed, because there's nothing to loop through if there's no elements. That's all for today. Thank you for listening to today's Python lecture about lists. If you have any questions, join our Discord server linked below. There you will have complete access to forums where KITE representatives can answer questions about concerns or confusions on exercises. Also, make sure to follow our new Instagram and Facebook accounts for KITE updates. Have a great day.